Hello. Welcome to the 18th Sunday. There's an interesting line in this gospel. There's John chapter 6, 24 to 35, where he says, "Do not work for food that perishes, but for the food that endures for eternal life." Well, the truth is we do have to work for the food that perishes in order to be able to live for today. And that's why God himself gave them manna, to have enough food for that day. Why is it said that way? Well, my understanding is this is the Hebrew exaggeration versus the Greek way of stating things. The Hebrew exaggeration is to make a point stronger, so to give it emotional force and move you not so much to know what is right, but to do what is right. Get you moving so that whatever knowledge you have, you make use of and get the job done. Whereas with the Greeks, they wanted you to know precisely what, as far as they were concerned, the truth is. There were really two different ways of looking at things. That's really a little footnote at the beginning. The real message is something else. Last week, the message was that God feeds us with what we need and what is good, and he does it in abundance. This week, the message is that God feeds us with what we need for life eternal, even more than temporal, even more than the food we need for every day. Otherwise, we can live today and die for eternity. That doesn't make much sense. For eternal life, we must eat the bread that is, take in as our inner life Jesus himself. For this reason, Jesus says in the gospel, "I am the bread of life." This is so important in the gospel. The Old Testament would emphasize a lot of little do's and don'ts, mostly don'ts. But in the New Testament, the central message is really Jesus. He's the revelation. To believe in him means much more than just to think the thought that he is God, but to live life centered on him, with him as the font of our life. Jesus is the bread of life, now and forever. In the second reading, he says, Paul says to the Ephesians, "You must no longer live as the Gentiles do, in the futility of their minds." Let's take a look at that. What does it mean to live in the futility of your mind? As I understand it, it means to create your own reality. To whatever you want to think, you decide that's truth, that's reality, that's what everything is about. An example of that would be in our modern society, in the society I've grown up in, that the model of life was we should get a good education so that we could get a good job, so that we could have a good income, so that we could give our families the nice things of life. And they in turn should do the same thing. Our children should get a good education so that they could get a good job, so that they in turn could be able to afford the nice things of life for themselves and their children, on and on. That, as far as I'm concerned, is living in the futility of their minds. That's going to lead nowhere. You're just going to get a bunch of nice things that are going to turn into junk, And now you got to buy another set of nice things that'll turn into junk. And in the end, you don't have anything. What Christianity is saying, what Jesus is saying, is I'm giving you what is for eternity. What's good at this moment and is good forever. Do not live in the futility of your mind. Rather, learn, he says in the next line, you learned Christ. You learned reality. You learned Jesus. And we're taught in him as truth is in Jesus, not as truth is in the futility of your mind. That you should put away the old self of your former way of life, corrupted through deceitful desires, trying to make this life first, pretty much ignoring the next life, rather than making this life a reflection of the life that you will live forever, because we live it in the Lord. Put on a new self, created in God's way, in righteousness and holiness of truth. A new self, created in God's way, not the futility of my own mind, but what God says reality is. What God leads me to live, because I build my life around God. I live it in him. In righteousness, because I live it following his will, not my own or anybody else's will. In the holiness of truth, the sanctity of the reality that is God, who is not just in heaven, but also in the church, but also in each one of us. And I live it in him. And he gives me the truth that is goodness now and forever. God bless you all, each and every day.